Hello, as always thank you all for watching my content. I only ask that you please help me out with subscribing to my channel, like, share, comment so I can continue to make content. I will get better as time goes by at making better videos, I promise. The Vampire's Tree. The moon hung like a blood-orange pendant in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the adobe structures of Guadalajara. In the autumn of 1791, the town was cloaked in superstition and hushed whispers, as rumors of a vampire began to weave their way through the streets. At the heart of this tale was Jorge de la Vega, a reclusive man of European descent who had purchased an expansive hacienda on the outskirts of town, far from the chatter and laughter of nearby casas. Jorge was a tall figure with a commanding presence, even his silhouette against the setting sun struck fear into the hearts of the villagers. With skin pale as moonlight and dark hair that flowed like a raven's wing, he captured the attention of many, but he never stayed long enough to share pleasantries. He rarely attended the lively markets and stayed secluded within the stone walls of his hacienda. The townsfolk whispered about his sharp canines and piercing gaze, details tinged with dread. For Jorge was cultivating an ominous intrigue within the community, a shadow that stretched longer and longer with every passing day. As days turned into weeks, the residents of Guadalajara noticed an unusual series of events. Their livestock began to die, each body discovered devoid of blood, as though it had been carefully drained by some malicious force. It wasn't long before the unspoken fear morphed into conviction. The very air felt thicker, charged with an unholy presence. Whispers echoed through the streets, and the town's elders convened, brainstorming ways to confront the growing terror tainting their lives. It was one evening, amongst a gathering of flickering candlelight, that Miguel, the town's hunter, proposed a daring plan. "We will catch this specter of the night," he declared, the fire casting shadows on his determined face. "Gather your courage, we shall stalk the darkness and discover what truly haunts our lives." That fateful night, armed with pitchforks and torches, a band of villagers slipped into the forest, cloaked by the moonlight and shrouded in fear. They moved like wraiths, guided by instinct, drawing nearer to the hacienda as the shadows thickened. Suddenly, a commotion echoed from the overgrown garden, punctuated by deep, guttural sounds. The villagers froze, hearts racing, as they crept closer. And there, amidst the foliage, they found him, Jorge, his fangs sunk deep into the neck of a goat, feasting insatiably on its warm blood. Gasps, then screams erupted from the villagers, who were torn between both horror and disbelief. Jorge's head snapped up, blood staining his pristine collar, recognition flashing in his soulless eyes. The hunter's gut instinct kicked in, and before they knew it, he was darting away, faster than any man should move. "After him!" Miguel commanded, and they rushed forth, wielding whatever they could find, wooden stakes and makeshift tools of vengeance. Yet Jorge slipped through the night like a shadow, evading each blow as if the darkness itself had granted him speed. Feeling their courage falter, they returned to the hacienda, encircling it like warriors at the gates of an ominous fortress. It was here, under the pale light of the moon, they prepared their final act of reclamation. "We'll drive a stake through his heart." They resolved, guided by the fearful certainty that this was the only way to rid themselves of the cursed vampire. Hours later, as dawn broke upon the landscape, the villagers managed to overpower Jorge, whose desperation turned into despair as the stake pierced his heart. His scream shattered the morning stillness, a ghastly wail that echoed through the town and echoed back, a haunting promise. "I shall return. My vengeance will be swift and terrible." Though he fell, the townsfolk knew they had merely laid the groundwork for a legend. Jorge was buried at El Panteón de Belén, and they heaped heavy rocks around his grave to dissuade him from rising again. With the sun shining brightly on that day, a strange phenomenon unfolded. Perhaps as a curse, perhaps as a coincidence. From his grave, a sapling sprouted, thriving despite the stones placed above it. As the decades unfolded into centuries, the tree grew, twisting and curling upward, its branches reaching out like clawed fingers yearning for freedom, each inch infused with dark history. The Camashan tree, vibrant and sinuous, caused villagers to speak in hushed tones about the day it would finally tear through the rocks and release Jorge's wrath anew. Generations later, the legend endured, and those who dared to venture near the tree felt a chilling sense of being watched. On starless nights, some claimed they could still hear Jorge's voice, threading through the wind, whispering curses in a distant, chilling echo. As the years melted into a tapestry of history, Carlos, a tour guide with a penchant for legends, began to offer ghost tours around the statue of the Camishan tree. Legend has it that if this tree falls, Jorge will return, he would intone, the thrill rising in the air, igniting both fear and excitement. Tourists flocked to hear the tales, they peered through the gloom with flashlights, their cameras snapping away, all except for the sigh of anger and frustration from those who learned after their visit they would need to pay extra to capture the elusive essence of the haunted lore. With each passing twilight, a cold chill filled the air, a reminder that even without the tree's fall, Jorge's legend lingered, living beneath the roots of El Panteón de Belén, feeding the shadows with dread, a reminder that some truths are best left buried, lest they rise with the moon. The vampire's tree stood as both a warning and a memorial. One day, it would be the harbinger for a vengeful master, waiting among the whispers of the night.